From The Onion and Onion Public Radio, I'm Leslie Price, and this is The Topical. Lots of important news to get to on this Friday that could affect the health and safety of your family. But before we begin, I'd like to ask you all to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty. Oh, Jesus, this happens every time. And justice for all. We'll be back in a moment. After weeks of nationwide protests spurred by the police killing of George Floyd, congressional leaders are finally taking action. Lawmakers in Washington today officially announced their willingness to give Black Lives Matter protesters a statue or a holiday or something. For more, I'm joined by OPR congressional correspondent Charles Dearborn. Charles, can you give us a little more context?
Sure, Leslie. We've seen sustained protests in all 50 states demanding accountability from those in power. And now Congress has heeded their call. Here's Maine Representative Edward Nix on how this all came to be.
People around this nation are calling for dramatic change. And I can assure you that we intend to meet this moment with the support it deserves. A nice memorial, say. Or perhaps a national day of remembrance that individual states can decide to declare an official day off work if they want.
Wow, that's some pretty impressive stuff.
It is indeed. If passed, it would be some of the most sweeping federal legislation to address racial inequality in decades.
Nice to see them finally putting their money where their mouth is. So what stage is the legislation at right now?
There is a bill currently being drafted, so the details are still being hammered out. One of the biggest decisions, obviously, will be whether to give them a statue or a holiday. Here's Nix with more.
I want to say to my constituents and the country, we have heard your message loud and clear. Enough is enough, and we intend to show this by building a statue of a white hand holding a black hand, or some black children looking inspirational or something. But then again, a day off probably wouldn't cost us as much. Maybe that's a way to go.
That's terrific. So do we expect this law to pass?
Well, of course, it will have to go through a Republican-controlled Senate, and several members have already been pushing to dilute the bill by providing only a small metal plaque or just rolling the whole thing into Martin Luther King Day.
Well, these all sound like great options to me, but should we expect this to appease the protesters?
Oh, yes. Based on talking to several senators, the Black Lives Matter members are going to be very excited about this big step, and this is probably the last we'll hear from them.
Wow, and do we have any comment from any of these activists?
Nah.
Sounds good. Thanks for the report, Charles. That's OPR's Charles Dearborn. Back with more right after this. CPR. Knowing how to do it could mean the difference between life and death. But what if the person lying unconscious isn't really the kind of person you'd normally go for? Well, that's okay, because the American Red Cross announced today that it's perfectly fine not to perform life-saving mouth-to-mouth on someone who just isn't your type. OPR health correspondent Jenna Resnick joins us now in the studio with more.
Hi, Leslie.
Now, Jenna, I always thought giving mouth-to-mouth was a crucial part of CPR.
Well, not anymore. In an important update to their guidelines, the Red Cross says the new first step in all cases in which you find a person unresponsive is to stop and check for sparks. If you peel back their eyelids and don't feel that special connection, then it's perfectly all right to stand there and do nothing.
Interesting. No chest compressions either?
You mean touch someone you're not attracted to? Ew, Leslie, no, of course not. I spoke with physician and American Red Cross advisor Dr. Norman Carver, and here's how he explained the new guidelines.
Some people will rush into mouth-to-mouth because they want to be a hero. But if they're blonde and you like brunettes, or they're kind of ugly and you like hot people, you could actually end up doing more harm than good. You don't want someone to think you're about to save their life then quit halfway through.
Well, that makes sense. You don't want to lead them on.
Exactly. Imagine the moment the victim's eyes flutter open and they say, "You saved me." Now they think you're their soulmate.
And then you have to marry them.
That would be tragic. It's important to remember that, sure, at first you might feel guilty about watching the life leave their body. Just remember that one day that person will find someone willing to give them mouth-to-mouth.
Is it safe to try taking the victim's glasses off or maybe parting their hair differently first?
Dr. Carver says if you're desperate, giving the unresponsive a makeover is okay. You can also try asking them questions to see if they have a good personality. The Red Cross has updated all of their training courses to reflect these new guidelines, and they're already having a tremendous impact. I spoke with Dylan Patrick, who was lucky enough to have recently completed his CPR certification when he stumbled upon 29-year-old Katie Hester, unconscious and barely clinging to life. And it was all captured on video.
She's not breathing. I think she drowned. There was a big crowd gathered around the side of the pool. I didn't really know what was going on, but then I heard someone say, "Does anyone know CPR?" And I just shifted into gear. I know CPR. Okay. Shoot. The first thing I notice is she's not breathing. The second thing I notice is the quote tattoo on her shoulder. I didn't have time to read it, but something about the font choice just screamed religious to me. You know what I mean? Is anyone here attracted to this woman?
I'll take a look. Oh, nope. Sorry.
She needs help. Anyone. She's got nice feet. What about you? Would you be willing to save this young woman's life?
Ugh, I can't. She's my sister.
Anyway, no one was really that into her, so I threw her back into the pool.
Thank God he was there. Everyone involved is very fortunate.
Definitely.
Well, thanks for that report, Jenna. We'll be back with more news right after this commercial break, which means it's finally time for me to enjoy some hard candy. Oh no, Jenna. I'm choking on my hard candy. I think I need help. I think I need CPR.
You're thinking of the Heimlich, Leslie, and even if you did need mouth-to-mouth, you're like a 4 at best.
Oh, that's bullshit. I just got my lips filled. Whatever. That's OPR's Jenna Resnick. Bitch. The 4th of July. It's the time of year where Americans celebrate our independence. But there are some patriots out there who have a hard time feeling the excitement. Sure, many of our most popular celebration rituals may seem like harmless fun, but the sad fact is many struggling veterans can have their post-traumatic stress disorder triggered by the loud sounds associated with shooting off rocket-propelled grenades. Here with more on how we can all celebrate more considerately is OPR mental health correspondent Alan Potts. Welcome to the show, Alan.
Thanks for having me, Leslie.
So I know there's a big group of us in my neighborhood who'd like to go out on the 4th and shoot off explosive war weaponry, but help explain this to us. What is it about these RPGs that can cause such a violent reaction in veterans?
Well, when veterans hear the noise of rocket-propelled grenades, they have a tendency to associate it with warfare. It may seem obvious to us that these deadly explosives are just good old-fashioned fun, but many veterans have been so primed from their time on the front lines that they associate any warheads flying towards them as a threat.
Wow, and I always thought of projectile weapons as just a simple pleasure to share with friends and family. Now, is it just RPGs, or can a veteran's PTSD be triggered by the sound of any heavy artillery being shot off?
Really, any sudden noise from a detonating mortar shell or even a cluster bomb can be enough to cause a veteran to curl up into a ball and flash back to reliving the trauma of watching one of their brothers in arms being blown up right in front of their eyes. Even just shooting off a few rounds from a machine gun in their direction could be enough to set them over the edge.
Well, I doubt that Americans will stop launching missiles for Independence Day, but what can people do to ensure that veterans feel safe when they do?
Well, of course, much of the fun of the holiday is watching all the pretty colors from a city's intercontinental ballistic missile display or seeing the kids light C4 for the first time.
Yeah.
But it's precisely those things that cause veterans to dissociate and begin snapping necks in a blind rage. Now, I know that it's ridiculous to assume that people are going to just stop shooting down Black Hawk helicopters, but people should make it a point to inform any veterans in their area that they will be detonating some IEDs and that there are no insurgent guerrilla fighters to worry about.
Okay.
Maybe even offer to lock them in a dark, quiet closet or blindfold them and blare heavy metal music in their ears until it's all over.
I gotta be honest, I would have thought veterans could handle their shit better.
Sure, but these innocent celebrations can carry real consequences. Just listen to the harrowing cell phone video taken last year from a 4th of July barbecue.
Can I shoot it? Can I shoot it?
All right, honey. Just lock onto your target and fire.
Try to kill me, you son of a bitch. Not today, commie.
Daddy, look! That man has a knife. Neat.
Wow, that is neat. Stop, please, stop. Will somebody stop him? Call the police, help!
Oh, my God. What have I done?
Oh, the barbecue is ruined.
Wow, well, let's just hope no barbecues are ruined this year. Thank you for the report, Alan.
Of course.
That's OPR's Alan Potts. Back in a moment. When our founding fathers signed the Declaration of Independence, you got to think there were at least like 3 more things they would have liked to include in there. Luckily, we've come a long way since then, and we don't have that problem on this show. Here's what else you need to know today. Federal agencies across the United States government have agreed to create a chore wheel in an effort to start getting some tasks done around the nation. The Department of Labor, Treasury, the Interior, Health and Safety, and Veterans Affairs, among others, all agreed that there's a lot of work to be done around the country, and the best way to split it all up fairly would be to randomly assign tasks based on a spin of the wheel. The new policy is scheduled to take effect as soon as the agencies can come to an agreement on whose responsibility it is to build the new chore wheel. And a new study out of the Pew Research Center today has no fucking clue what's going on with 15% of Americans, despite numerous studies attempting to understand just what in the hell this subset of people are doing or thinking at any given moment. Pew researchers have reportedly resigned themselves to accepting that this 15% of the population are just going to have to remain a goddamn mystery. And finally, good news out of Raytheon today, as researchers at the U.S. defense contractor announced they completed a successful test of a new line of drones on mice. The Generation 2 Coyote UAS is reported to have tested proficiently in its ability to blow away individual mice as well as large groups of the murids. Raytheon researchers were confident it would test equally well on humans and were reportedly very excited to find out. And that's it for The Topical today. I'm Leslie Price. Folks, we here at The Topical wouldn't dare disrespect the flag by working on the 4th of July, so we'll be taking off all of next week just to be safe. Hopefully nothing big happens that we need to report on, because there's just nothing more important than respecting the flag of our great nation, even if that means having an uninformed populace. I want to thank everyone here at The Topical for their great work over the past few months, and I hope you can all use this time off for some well-earned rest and relaxation. Oh, and also because you're not working, you guys aren't getting paid, sorry. But don't worry, we'll be right back here on Monday, July 6th with more episodes of The Topical. Until then, keep your hands over your hearts, and we'll see you next time. The news doesn't stop just because this YouTube video has. For even more on all the worst things happening in the world right now, listen and subscribe to The Topical on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, you insatiable news freaks.